Let me start by telling you something most people are afraid to admit to themselves. The reason your life hasn't changed is not because you lack potential. It's not because you're unlucky. It's not because the system is against you. It's because you keep giving life half of you and expecting everything in return. Half commitment is the most dangerous lie you can live with because it feels like effort, but it produces nothing. It feels safe, but it slowly destroys your confidence. Every time you start something and don't go all in, you're not just failing at the task, you're teaching yourself that you cannot be trusted. When you commit halfway, your mind knows it. Your body knows it. Your future knows it. You show up with one foot in and one foot out, already preparing an excuse before the work even begins. And then when the results don't come, you act surprised. But deep down, you knew. You always knew you didn't give it everything. That's why half commitment doesn't just delay success, it poisons your self-respect. Because confidence is built on keeping promises to yourself. And every time you hesitate, every time you pull back, every time you say, I'll try, instead of I will, you break another promise. Understand this clearly. The world can forgive failure. The world respects effort. But your own mind never forgets when you betray yourself. You feel it when you wake up in the morning. You feel it when you see other people winning. You feel it when you make excuses that sound logical but taste bitter in your mouth. That feeling is not jealousy. It's not anger. It's regret. It's the awareness that you played small when you knew you could have gone harder. Half commitment creates a dangerous loop. You don't go all in, so you don't get results. Because you don't get results, you doubt yourself. Because you doubt yourself, you commit even less the next time. And slowly, without realizing it, you build an identity of someone who starts things but never finishes, someone who talks big but moves small, someone who dreams loudly but acts quietly. This is how potential dies. Not through failure, but through hesitation repeated over time. People love to say they're being realistic. They say they're keeping their options open. They say they don't want to risk too much, but what they're really doing is protecting their ego. Because if you never go all in, you never have to face the truth of what you're capable of. If you don't fully commit, you can always tell yourself it didn't really count. And that excuse might comfort you today, but it will haunt you for years. Because deep down, you'll always wonder who you could have been if you had the courage to give everything. Being all in is scary because it removes your hiding place. When you commit fully, there's nowhere to run, no excuse, no backup story, no one to blame, and that level of responsibility terrifies average people. But that same responsibility is what creates powerful individuals. Because when you go all in, you activate something inside you that hesitation never will. Your focus sharpens, your standards rise, your tolerance for distraction disappears. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop asking how little you can do to get by and start asking how far you can push. Half commitment keeps you comfortable. Full commitment changes your identity. When you go all in, you stop seeing obstacles as signs to quit and start seeing them as proof that you're on the right path. You don't look for motivation anymore because commitment replaces motivation. You move because you decided to move. You act because quitting is no longer an option. That's when results start chasing you instead of you chasing them. Listen to this carefully. Every area of your life where you feel stuck is an area where you're not fully committed. Every goal that hasn't moved forward is a goal you haven't respected enough to give everything to. You don't need more information. You don't need more time. You don't need better circumstances. You need to stop lying to yourself about how committed you really are. Because the moment you go all in, the moment you remove the escape routes, the moment you decide that quitting is no longer part of your identity, everything changes. Your energy changes. Your discipline changes. Your results change. And most importantly, the way you see yourself changes. Because you finally become someone who does what they say they're going to do, even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it costs you something real. There is a massive difference between people who win and people who stay stuck. And it has nothing to do with intelligence, background, or luck. It comes down to how often they force themselves to decide. Winners decide once. Losers decide every single day. And every time you decide something you already committed to, You drain your power, weaken your discipline, and invite doubt back into your life. When a winner decides to change their body, their finances, their mindset, their habits, that decision is final. It's locked in. There is no daily debate, no emotional discussion, no internal argument about whether today is the right day. The decision is made once, and then execution becomes automatic. They wake up and move because they already decided who they are. Losers, on the other hand, wake up every morning asking themselves questions they should have answered months ago. Should I work today? Should I train today? Should I stay focused today? Should I push or should I rest? And every one of those questions steals energy that could have been used to build something real. Daily decision making feels harmless, but it's one of the most dangerous habits you can develop. Because when you let your emotions vote every morning, they will always choose comfort. Feelings are short-term thinkers. They don't care about your future. They care about avoiding discomfort right now. So when you keep asking yourself whether you should stay disciplined, your feelings will eventually talk you out of it. Not because you're weak, but because you've given them authority. They were never supposed to have. Winners remove negotiation from their lives. They don't rely on motivation because motivation expires. They don't rely on mood because mood changes. They rely on decisions. And once the decision is made, it becomes law. There is no discussion with tiredness. There is no argument with fear. There is no debate with doubt. The body follows the decision, not the other way around. That's why winners look consistent. That's why they look unstoppable. It's not because they feel better than you. It's because they stopped rethinking what they already chose. Look at your own life honestly. How many things have you decided multiple times? How many times have you said, this is the year I change, this is the month I lock in, this is the week I take it seriously? And then one bad day, one inconvenience, one emotional low, and suddenly you're deciding all over again. That cycle keeps you weak because every time you quit and restart, you confirm to yourself that your word doesn't mean much. And when your own mind doesn't respect your word, nothing you want will ever fully trust you. Deciding once is powerful because it creates momentum. When you no longer waste energy choosing, you can pour that energy into execution. Your days become simpler, not easier, but simpler. There is clarity, there is direction, there is peace in knowing that regardless of how you feel, the action is already chosen. That level of certainty is rare, and that's why results are rare. Most people live in constant mental chaos, arguing with themselves about things that should already be settled. Losers confuse flexibility with wisdom. They say they're keeping their options open, staying adaptable, listening to their body, going with the flow. But in reality, they're avoiding commitment. They're afraid to decide because deciding means accountability. Deciding means you can no longer blame circumstances. Deciding means you have to face the results, good or bad. And that level of responsibility scares people who aren't ready to grow. Winners understand that clarity beats comfort. They understand that deciding once doesn't trap you, it frees you. It frees you from overthinking. It frees you from emotional swings. It frees you from the exhausting cycle of starting and stopping. Once the decision is made, the path becomes clear. You know what to do on good days. You know what to do on bad days. You know what to do when you're tired, bored, stressed, or uninspired. You do the work because that's who you decided to be. If you want a different life, stop asking yourself daily whether you deserve it. Stop checking in with your feelings to see if they approve. Decide once and let time prove you right. Decide who you are and act in alignment with that identity. Decide what you stand for and refuse to negotiate it. Decide what you're building and show up whether the process feels good or not. The moment you stop redeciding, you stop bleeding energy, and that energy turns into focus, discipline, and forward movement that compounds every single day until the gap between you and everyone else becomes impossible to ignore. Fear is not your enemy. Fear is the receipt that proves you're about to enter a higher level of life. Every person who has ever built something powerful felt fear before they felt confidence. The difference is they didn't wait for fear to disappear. They moved while it was screaming. Most people misunderstand fear and treat it like a warning sign, like something that means stop, turn around, go back to safety. But fear doesn't mean danger. Fear means unfamiliar territory. Fear means growth. Fear means you're about to separate yourself from the version of you that has been holding you back. If you're not scared, you're not aiming high enough. Comfort never produces fear, and comfort never produces greatness. Fear only appears when something meaningful is at stake. When you decide to go all in, fear shows up immediately because your old identity feels threatened. The version of you that loves comfort, excuses, and familiarity will fight back. That internal resistance isn't a sign you're wrong. It's proof that the change is real. Most people let fear make their decisions for them. They feel it in their chest, they feel it in their stomach, and they interpret that sensation as a signal to slow down. They start asking themselves questions that don't matter. What if it doesn't work? What if I fail? What if people judge me? What if I lose what I have? And while they're busy asking questions, opportunity moves on without them. Fear freezes them in place because they give it authority. They listen to it as if it has wisdom, when in reality, fear only knows one job: to keep you the same. Winners understand fear differently. They expect it. They budget for it. They know that every serious commitment comes with discomfort attached. Fear becomes part of the process, not a reason to quit the process. When fear shows up, winners don't panic. They don't overthink. They don't retreat. They lean forward. They take action not because they feel brave, but because bravery is created through movement. Confidence is not something you wait for. Confidence is something you earn after you act. Think about every time fear stopped you in the past. A conversation you didn't have, a risk you didn't take, a decision you delayed. At the time, avoiding fear felt like relief, but that relief was temporary. What followed was regret. Regret lasts much longer than fear ever will. Fear is intense but short-lived. Regret is quiet but permanent. And that's the trade most people make without realizing it. They avoid fear today and sentence themselves to dissatisfaction tomorrow. Fear is also honest. It reveals how much you care. You don't feel fear about things that don't matter. You don't feel fear about staying average. You don't feel fear about repeating the same year over and over. Fear shows up when the stakes are high, when the outcome could change your life, when the decision forces you to grow. That's why fear is not a problem to solve. It's a signal to proceed. Being all in means accepting fear as part of the contract. It means understanding that certainty comes after commitment, not before it. Most people want guarantees before they move. They want proof before they act. But life doesn't work that way. The proof comes after you step forward. The clarity comes after you commit. The confidence comes after you survive what you were afraid of. When you hesitate because of fear, you strengthen it. When you move through fear, you weaken it. Fear feeds on avoidance. Action starves it. Every time you do the thing that scares you, fear loses authority over you. It doesn't disappear completely, but it stops controlling your behavior. And the moment fear no longer controls you, your life opens up in ways you can't imagine. People don't eliminate fear. They dominate it. They don't wait to feel ready. They decide and let fear catch up. They understand that fear will always exist at the edge of growth, and they train themselves to walk toward it instead of away from it. That's how limits are broken. That's how identity is rebuilt. That's how ordinary people become dangerous to their own doubts. If you're feeling fear right now, that's not a sign to slow down. That's confirmation that you're standing at the doorway of something bigger than your current self. The question isn't whether fear will be present. The question is whether you will let it decide for you or whether you will decide in spite of it. Because the moment you move while afraid, you prove to yourself that fear no longer owns your future. The world does not pause for comfort. The moment you slow down, hesitate, or settle, someone else accelerates. Comfort feels harmless, even deserved, but it is the most efficient system the world has for replacing you. Every industry, every opportunity, every position of influence operates under the same law. The person who wants it more will eventually take it. Comfort is not rest. Comfort is surrender disguised as self-care. Most people believe loyalty exists in life simply because they've been around long enough. They think effort in the past guarantees security in the future. That belief is fatal. The world does not reward history, it rewards relevance. And relevance only belongs to those who stay sharp, hungry, and uncomfortable. The second you decide you've done enough, someone hungrier steps in to prove you haven't. Comfort dulls your edge. It softens your urgency. It convinces you that tomorrow is guaranteed, and that illusion is what makes you vulnerable. When you're comfortable, you stop pushing. When you stop pushing, you stop growing. And when you stop growing, you start falling behind, even if it doesn't feel like it yet. Decline rarely feels dramatic at first. It feels quiet. It feels like small compromises, a skipped session, a delayed decision, a reduced standard. But those small moments compound until one day you realize the gap between you and those who stayed hungry has become massive. Replacement doesn't happen because you're bad. It happens because someone else is willing to suffer more. Someone else is willing to work when you rest, learn when you relax, push when you pause. Comfort makes you predictable. Predictable people are easy to replace. Hunger makes you dangerous, and dangerous people are always in demand. Look at your own life and be honest. The areas where you feel secure are the areas where you're most at risk, because security breeds complacency. You stop checking yourself. You stop raising the bar. You start doing the minimum required to maintain what you have instead of doing what's necessary to become more. And while you're maintaining, someone else is building. While you're preserving, someone else is attacking the future. Being all in means rejecting comfort as a lifestyle. It doesn't mean you never rest. It means you never settle. There is a difference. Rest is strategic. Comfort is indulgent. Rest prepares you for more work. Comfort convinces you that the work is done. And the moment you believe the work is done, you give permission for your position to be taken. The world respects intensity. It respects people who operate with urgency even when things are going well, especially when things are going well, because that's when discipline matters most. Anyone can work hard when they're desperate. Very few people can stay hungry when they're winning. That's why success is temporary for most. They relax at the first sign of progress and confuse momentum with a rival. Replacement doesn't always look like someone else taking your place immediately. Sometimes it looks like opportunity slowly bypassing you. You stop getting the call. You stop being considered. You stop being seen as essential. Not because you lost skill, but because you lost drive. And drive is what separates leaders from placeholders. Comfort also lies to you about timing. It tells you there will always be another chance. Another moment, another opening. But life does not operate on your schedule. Windows open and close quietly, and the people who stay uncomfortable are the ones ready to move when those windows appear. Comfortable people are too slow to react because they've trained themselves to value ease over urgency. If you want to remain irreplaceable, you must remain uncomfortable. You must stay sharp even when no one is pushing you. You must hold yourself to a higher standard than anyone else ever will. You must create pressure in your own life before life creates it for you. Because pressure creates progress, and progress is what keeps you ahead. The all-in mindset understands this deeply. It knows that comfort is the enemy of longevity. It knows that ease today leads to struggle tomorrow. It knows that the cost of staying ahead is constant effort. You don't get to arrive and relax. You get to earn your position every single day. The moment you forget that, the process of replacement has already begun, quietly, efficiently, without emotion, because the world does not care how long you've been comfortable. It only cares about who is willing to stay uncomfortable long enough to deserve what you have. Talent is one of the most overrated excuses people hide behind. They look at someone winning and say they're gifted, they're lucky, they were born different. That lie protects their ego because it convinces them they were never meant to win anyway. But talent without obsession is fragile. It cracks under pressure. It folds when things get repetitive. It disappears the moment discipline is required without applause. Obsession is different. Obsession doesn't wait to feel inspired. Obsession doesn't need validation. Obsession doesn't stop because it's tired, bored, or frustrated. Obsession keeps going when the excitement dies and only the work remains. That's why obsession destroys talent over time. Talent shines early. Obsession dominates late. And life is a long game. Most talented people lose because they rely on what comes naturally to them. They expect progress without sacrifice. They expect results without suffering. And the moment the work demands more than they're comfortable giving, they stall. Obsessive people expect suffering. They plan for it. They welcome it. They understand that obsession is not unhealthy when it's directed. It becomes dangerous only when it's wasted on comfort and distraction. Obsession creates mastery because it forces repetition. And repetition is what separates amateurs from elites. You don't become elite by doing something when you feel like it. You become elite by doing it when it's boring, when it's frustrating, when it feels pointless. Obsession allows you to stay in the game long enough for skill to compound, while others quit because progress feels slow. The obsessive keeps stacking invisible wins. Being all in means letting obsession take control of your standards. You no longer ask what's required, you ask what's possible. You don't compare your effort to others. You compare it to your potential. Obsession removes the ceiling that talent hits. Talent says, this is good enough. Obsession says, keep going. Obsessive people don't balance their goals with comfort. They organize their life around the mission. Their routines, their environment, their conversations all align with what they're building. They don't live randomly, they live deliberately. That level of focus intimidates people who are casually interested in success. Because obsession exposes excuses without saying a word, talent gets attention. Obsession gets results. Talent looks good on day 1. Obsession looks unstoppable on day 1,000. That's why the people who win long-term are rarely the most gifted at the start. They're the ones who refuse to let go. They're the ones who stayed locked in when progress was slow and doubt was loud. Obsession also protects you from distraction. When you're truly all in, noise loses its power. Opinions fade. Trends become irrelevant. You stop chasing shortcuts because obsession respects the process. It understands that shortcuts rob you of strength. Obsession wants the full transformation, not just the outcome. Most people fear obsession because it demands sacrifice. It demands saying no. It demands isolation at times. It demands choosing long-term fulfillment over short-term pleasure. But that sacrifice is temporary. The rewards are permanent. Comfort feels good today. Obsession builds a life that feels good forever. When you combine obsession with discipline, talent becomes irrelevant. Skill can be learned. Strength can be built. Knowledge can be acquired. But obsession cannot be faked. You either want it enough to reorganize your life around it, or you don't. And if you don't, someone else will. Someone with less talent, but more hunger will outwork you, outperform you, and eventually replace you. Being all in means choosing obsession over balance. It means understanding that extraordinary results require extraordinary focus. It means accepting that the version of you who wants comfort cannot coexist with the version of you who wants dominance. One has to die. And the moment you choose obsession, you stop competing with talented people and start competing with yourself, because obsession doesn't care who you were yesterday. It only cares about how far you're willing to push today. There comes a moment in every person's journey where progress demands a ruthless decision. A decision so final that retreat is no longer an option. This is the moment where you burn the boats, where you remove the safety nets, the backup plans, the quiet exits you've been keeping in your pocket just in case things get uncomfortable. Most people never reach their full potential, not because they aren't capable, because they always leave themselves a way out. And when quitting is an option, the mind will eventually take it. A backup plan feels responsible. It feels smart. It feels mature. But in reality, it divides your energy. It splits your focus. It gives your fear a place to hide. When things get hard, and they always do, the backup plan starts whispering. It tells you this is too risky, too stressful, too demanding. It tells you there's another way that's easier, safer, more comfortable. And before you know it, the fire you once had is gone, replaced by rationalizations that sound logical but kill momentum. Being all in means deciding there is no alternative version of your life where you play small and feel satisfied. It means understanding that there is no plan B that will fulfill you the same way plan A could have if you had committed fully. Burning the boats is not about recklessness. It's about alignment. It's about matching your actions with the level of life you say you want. Because you cannot build something extraordinary while constantly preparing for failure. When there is no escape route, something powerful happens. Your focus sharpens, your creativity expands, your tolerance for excuses disappears. You stop asking whether you can do it and start asking how. Pressure stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like fuel. The human mind performs differently when there is no option to retreat. History proves this again and again. People rise not when conditions are perfect, but when quitting is no longer available. Most people are living two lives at once. The life they say they want and the life they're prepared to settle for. And that internal conflict drains them. They move forward slowly, cautiously, half committed, because they're never fully present in either direction. Burning the boats forces clarity. You're no longer negotiating between who you are and who you could be. You make the choice, and everything else falls into line. Fear becomes louder when you remove the backup. Doubt becomes more aggressive. Resistance intensifies, but so does your strength. Because now you have no choice but to adapt, to grow, to become resourceful. You stop depending on motivation and start depending on resolve. You don't wait for confidence. You build it through survival. Every challenge you overcome reinforces the belief that you can handle more than you thought. A backup life is dangerous because it keeps you emotionally attached to mediocrity. It allows you to flirt with greatness without committing to it. Burning the boats severs that attachment. It forces you to face reality without filters. You either evolve or you suffer. And suffering with purpose is far better than comfort without meaning. Being all, it means accepting that there will be days you question everything. Days you feel exposed. Days you feel overwhelmed. But those days are not signs you made the wrong choice. They are signs you made a real one. Easy paths don't test you. They don't transform you. They don't demand anything from you. Hard paths do. And it is on those paths that identity is forged. When there is no backup life, urgency becomes natural. You don't procrastinate when time feels precious. You don't waste energy on distractions when the mission matters. You stop seeking approval because survival requires action, not validation. Burning the boats eliminates fantasy and replaces it with execution. This is why average people fear commitment. Commitment removes excuses. Commitment removes comfort. Commitment removes the ability to blame circumstances. But it also unlocks a version of you that has been waiting for permission to take control. The moment you accept there is no going back, your standards rise. Your actions align. Your excuses lose their power. You don't need certainty to burn the boats. Certainty comes after. You don't need confidence to go all in. Confidence is built through endurance. You need a decision that is so final your old habits can't survive it. A decision that forces you to show up differently because there is no other version of your life you're willing to live. Being all in is not about winning every time. It's about removing the option to quit. It's about deciding that regardless of the outcome, you will become stronger, sharper, and more disciplined through the process. When there is no backup life, every effort matters. Every day counts. Every action has weight. And that pressure, when embraced, turns ordinary people into forces that refuse to break, because when the boats are burned and the smoke clears, the only direction left is forward, and the only identity left is the one you're building with every step you take into the unknown, where comfort no longer exists and commitment becomes the only thing you trust. Everything you've heard in this speech leads to one unavoidable truth. Life does not reward hesitation, and it does not wait for clarity. It responds only to commitment. Being all in is not a personality trait. It is a decision you make when you are tired of repeating the same year under different excuses. The difference between the life you are living and the life you want has never been a mystery. It has always been the distance between half effort and full commitment. You now understand that comfort is not neutral. It is costly. You understand that fear is not a warning to stop, but a signal that growth is required. You understand that talent without obsession fades, that backup plans weaken resolve, and that deciding once is more powerful than debating forever. These are not motivational ideas meant to excite you for a moment. These are laws, and laws do not care how you feel about them. At some point, everyone reaches a moment where they must choose whether they are serious about their potential or just entertained by the idea of it. That moment is now. Because once you see the truth, you can no longer unsee it. You can no longer pretend you are trying when you are actually protecting comfort. You can no longer blame circumstances when you know commitment was missing. Awareness removes excuses, and responsibility follows immediately after. Being all in means accepting that there is a cost and deciding that the cost is worth paying. It means understanding that the pain of discipline is temporary, but the pain of regret lasts forever. It means choosing the hard path, not because it is guaranteed to work, but because the easy path is guaranteed to keep you the same. It means burning the version of yourself that wants safety more than growth. From this point forward, every action becomes a vote. Every choice either moves you closer to the person you claim you want to become or confirms that you were never serious. There is no neutral ground. There is no middle lane. Life only recognizes momentum or stagnation. And once you commit fully, momentum begins to work in your favor in ways you cannot yet see. This speech does not end your journey. It removes your excuses. What happens next is not determined by motivation, inspiration, or emotion. It is determined by whether you decide to live with full intensity or continue negotiating with doubt. Because the world will always make room for those who move with conviction, and it will quietly step over those who hesitate. And the moment you choose to be all in, you stop asking life for permission and start taking responsibility for the results that follow from the decisions you make every single day after this moment, where words turn into action